Hello PEI, and a very happy 2026 to all our listeners.
Happy New Year. We are kicking things off right away.
We absolutely are. We've got a fresh stack of data to dive into because Mike Montague of RE/MAX Charlottetown has come bearing numbers.
That's right. The final 2025 numbers are in from the Canadian Real Estate Association.
So today, our mission is to break all of this down. We're going to go through the key sales figures, the inventory, the prices, and really talk about what it all means for you.
Whether you're a longtime islander or maybe you're one of the many people from off-island who are, seriously looking at a move here.
Exactly. And the big headline, the one that really jumped out at me, is that PEI home sales finished 2025 on a strong note. But what does strong actually mean here?
Well, let's jump right into that.
Wow.
If you were expecting the usual winter slowdown in December, things getting quiet for the holidays.
Which is what normally happens.
It just didn't happen here, not this time.
Okay, so tell us, what did December actually look like?
It was busy. 141 residential units were sold.
141. And just to give that some context, how does that compare to the year before?
That's the key. It's a huge surge. That number is up 20.5% compared to December of 2024.
20%. So if you're out there trying to buy a house, the competition you felt in, say, October, it just never went away for Christmas.
It really didn't. And this wasn't just a little blip. That level of activity is way above the historical norms. It's 14.3% above the 5-year average. And get this, 18.5% above the 10-year average for the month of December.
Wow. So this is a genuinely robust performance, not just a rebound.
Exactly. And all that activity meant a lot of money was changing hands.
Right. The total dollar volume was $55.7 million.
An 18.1% increase in dollar volume year over year. It tells us not only were more homes being sold, but they were selling at, very solid price points.
And this strong December, it really just capped off what turned into a pretty solid year overall, right?
It did. If you zoom out and look at the whole of 2025, we saw 2,146 homes sold. That's a moderate but healthy 6% gain over all of 2024.
So the takeaway for anyone listening as we head into 2026 is that you are stepping into a market that has real momentum.
There's definite confidence from buyers, which suggests, good things about the island's economic outlook. But confidence is one thing.
But you have to have something to actually buy.
That's the other side of the coin, the market balance, the inventory.
Let's talk about supply then.
Yeah.
How many new listings came on the market in December?
So we saw 133 new listings. That number is also up, which is good. It's an increase of 13.7% from December 2024.
Okay, so more homes coming onto the market. That sounds like great news for buyers, doesn't it?
It should be. And that number is about 7.6% above the 5-year average. So new supply is coming on. The problem is that sales volume we were just talking about.
It's just eating it all up.
It's eating it up faster than it arrives, which leads to a really interesting situation with the total inventory.
So what happened to the number of homes still for sale at the end of the year? The active listings.
We actually saw a tightening. The total number of active residential listings was 905. Now, that's a small drop, only about 2.8% from the end of 2024.
Okay, hang on. 905 homes for sale. That still sounds like a fair bit of choice for a buyer. Is the market really tilted towards sellers?
That is the perfect question to ask, because 900 homes sounds like a lot, but it's the rate at which those homes are selling that tells the real story.
This is where we get into that key metric, months of inventory.
Exactly. Months of inventory, or MOI. It's basically a measure of how long it would take to sell every single home currently for sale if we keep selling them at the current pace.
And what was that number in December?
It was 6.4 months.
6.4.
Yeah.
Now, what was it the year before? Because I think the change is what's really important here.
This is what's fascinating. In December 2024, the MOI was 8.00 months.
Wow. So in just 1 year, the market absorbed enough inventory to shave a month and a half off the timeline.
A full month and a half. That is a massive contraction.
Right.
When you go from 8 months of supply down to 6.5 in a single year, it tells you competition for good properties has gotten way more intense.
That's the difference between a buyer feeling like they have time to think and feeling like they have to move now.
Absolutely. The long-run historical average for PEI is about 7.4 months. We are well below that now. That's why the official description is balanced but tilted in favor of sellers. That sharp drop just confirms the tilt is getting stronger.
And that pressure usually leads directly to one thing, which is price movement. This brings us to the price analysis, and this is where we need to be really, really careful with the numbers.
Yes. This is so important for everyone listening. The media loves to report the average price, but that can be so misleading.
Right. If a couple of huge waterfront estates sell for millions, it can pull the whole average up, even if the price of a regular family home hasn't changed at all.
It's that classic statistical skew. So, to get a real picture, we use the MLS Home Price Index, or HPI. It tracks the value of a typical representative home over time. It's a much more accurate measure.
Okay, so using that better HPI measure,
Yeah.
what's the story with PEI prices?
Well, this is the big surprise. The overall HPI composite benchmark price was $373,300 in December. Compared to a year ago, that price is essentially unchanged. It's up just 0.7%.
So stability. The headline is stability, not runaway price growth.
Exactly, which is so important because if you only looked at the average price for December, it was actually down 2% year over year.
See, and if you read that headline, you'd think the market was falling. But the HPI tells us the core value of homes is holding steady.
It's holding very strong. Even the year-to-date average price for all of 2025 was only up a modest 2.7%. But, and this is a big but,
Here's where it gets interesting. That overall stability is hiding some very different stories depending on what kind of house we're talking about.
a huge split. We're seeing a clear divide in demand. Two-story homes are hot, one-story homes, not so much.
Give us the numbers because the difference is pretty stark.
Okay, so the benchmark price for a two-story home on the island is now $391,600. That is up a very strong 7.0% over the last year.
7% growth. That points to huge demand from families, people needing more space.
Mm-hmm. Now compare that to one-story homes. The benchmark there is $361,900, but that number is actually down 3.3% over the same 12 months.
So a 7% increase versus a 3% drop, that's a 10-point swing depending on the style of home.
It is. It suggests a real shift. Maybe older housing stock is facing more scrutiny, or maybe buyers are just focused on those larger family homes. If you're looking for a bungalow, you might find a bit more room to negotiate.
And just to make these numbers feel real, what is that benchmark house? What does it look like?
Right, so the representative PEI home we're tracking here is typically a 3-bed, 2-bath house, built around 1991, about 1,400 square feet, oil or electric heat, and a single attached garage. That's the home whose value is tracking that steady, stable growth.
That really grounds it.
Okay.
Now let's take this mix of fast sales and split prices and look at the different regions because PEI is definitely not one single market.
Not at all. We can start in the capital, Charlottetown, which is still the island's price leader. The composite benchmark price there is the highest at $425,800.
And that two-story family home we were just talking about, in Charlottetown, the benchmark for that is almost $490,000.
It is. But what's interesting is that while the prices are the highest, the market isn't the fastest. Charlottetown's months of inventory is 6.5 months. It's seller-friendly, but it's pretty much tracking the provincial average.
Okay, now let's go across the bridge to Stratford. That's where you see the absolute top of the market.
Stratford is in a league of its own for high-end family homes. The two-story benchmark there is a whopping $678,500.
Wow, that is serious capital growth. And sales were still up over 9% there in December.
That's where you see the pressure from hiring local families and, off-island buyers who want a newer, larger home near the city.
But if we want to talk about speed, about a market that's really frantic, we have to look at Summerside.
Summerside is just on fire right now. It's a fascinating case study in high velocity. Their median price in December jumped 25.6% compared to the year before.
A 25% jump, what's driving that?
It's shrinking supply, meeting intense demand. The market there is very, very tight.
How tight are we talking?
At the end of the year, Summerside only had 90 active listings. When you combine that low supply with how fast things are selling, you get a months of inventory of just 4.3 months.
4.3. So compared to the provincial average of 6.4, that is moving at lightning speed.
It means you have no time to think. It's the kind of market where sellers are getting multiple unconditional offers. Your financing has to be perfect, and you have to be ready to move instantly. It's a real pressure cooker.
Okay, so if someone's looking for a lower price point, maybe a first-time buyer, they might turn to Eastern PEI. The benchmark price there is the lowest, at $292,000.
It is. But here's the critical warning. Do not mistake a lower price for a slower market. Eastern PEI saw the biggest velocity spike of anywhere on the island. Sales there were up 30% year over year in December.
30%. So what does that do to the inventory?
It creates a situation that is, it's basically impossible. Look at this one metric. The sales to new listings ratio in December was 130.
130. So
Yeah.
For every 100 homes that came on the market, 130 were sold.
Exactly. It means they're not only selling every new thing that gets listed, but they're also burning through all the leftover inventory from previous months.
So if you see a new listing in Eastern PEI, you have to assume there's a lineup of other buyers who missed out on the last 10 houses, all waiting to pounce.
You basically have minutes, not days. It's a super competitive environment, even with that lower price of entry.
This has been a fascinating breakdown.
Yeah.
I think the final takeaway for everyone is pretty clear. PEI saw a really strong sales recovery in 2025 that accelerated at year-end, absorbing inventory and creating a market that definitely tilts in the seller's favor as we start 2026.
That's a perfect summary. And while overall prices are stable year over year, that hides some real growth in certain segments, like those two-story homes. And remember, the long-term appreciation is still incredible. The HPI is up almost 40% in the last 5 years.
Okay, so here's the provocative thought to leave everyone with. We know sales are historically high. We know inventory is tightening fast. That MOI dropped from 8.0 to 6.4 in just a year. If this sales activity continues into the spring market, what does that tightening inventory imply for prices?
Well, that's the pressure point to watch. That squeeze of high demand against shrinking supply is a classic recipe for upward price movement. If we don't see a huge surge of new listings this spring, that overall HPI stability could start to crack, and we could see prices begin to climb more broadly, especially in places like Summerside. The trend is definitely pointing up.
A huge thank you to Mike Montague of RE/MAX Charlottetown for providing all the data and context that made this deep dive possible. If you're trying to navigate this dynamic market, we suggest he is the realtor with the experience to handle your real estate needs in 2026. Give him a call. He'd be glad to buy you a coffee and discuss your plans.
And thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll be back soon.
See you next time.